Welcome back to Beers Up Sports Talk, episode 14. Cebo in the house, Debo in the house. We got NBA, bubble, and Disney. We got NFL to talk about, some rule changes. But before we get started, Debo, what are you drinking on tonight?
Back on that Iron Duke train, 4 a.m. Haven't seen 4 a.m. in a long time. In the morning, that means. But the beer, fantastic.
Maybe tonight. Maybe you get crazy. Maybe you stay up all night.
I didn't do that for my birthday, so I'm probably not doing it on a random Thursday.
Fair point. And I have Whalers out of Rhode Island. A buddy of mine, it's a pale ale, a buddy of mine, his girlfriend's college friend makes this beer. Light pale ale, delicious, fantastic.
Looks nice. I mean a
look
little bit better if it was the Hartford Whalers, but, Rhode Island's just as well.
Yeah, you're right. It is what it is. All right, let's get started. The NBA creeping ever so slowly back to us. Rumor has it we're about 6 to 8 weeks out from the return of the NBA.
That is slowly.
Right, but that puts us kind of in that July start date, which is what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
But we're 6 to 8 weeks out. The big rumor, the thing that seems to be sticking the most is that they're going to head down to Disney and create kind of like a bubble community where all 30 NBA teams can be there, all the players can be there, and they can play games, stay there, and kind of live there. Initial thoughts. Give me what you're thinking.
Was this the Truman Show? Are they going to be able to throw some fake weather in there just to make it interesting? I mean, all I can think of is the Olympics and the housing that goes on there, and I feel like there's a lot of partying that goes on. So it'd be interesting. At least they're all together. Right.
And I guess so the things that I've read is that they have enough hotel rooms. Disney has enough hotel rooms to host all of the teams and the players. Down there they have a space big enough to house multiple courts that can be broadcasted. Right? And
is this at the Walt Disney World of Sports or whatever
correct.
it is?
Correct.
Okay.
And then they have, because Walt Disney is private, they kind of can get it probably around a lot of the things that would get in the way of maybe some other places that they might want to try basketball.
So my guess is Disney is doing this because they know that they're probably not opening until God knows when.
Yeah, I don't think that a place like Disney can open anytime soon.
I think they originally stated they wouldn't open in 2020 again.
Right. Right.
So I mean, it's great for them, right? They can make up some money in hotel costs and maybe in advertising. I'm sure. Right. I mean, that makes things a lot more safe. If people are going to be there, they're going to be living there, and they're not traveling. If you have 5 different cities where these games are going to be at, people are still going to have to travel. Mm-hmm. I think the craziest part of this is I read something that they're going to be able to start doing antibody testing there if they do this.
Yep.
And then they're talking about 10,000 tests for COVID, but yet, again, we can't go out and get one unless we have symptoms. And that to me is still kind of bullshit. I'm not going to lie.
Doc. Money is the root of all things.
That's great. But I think it's bullshit.
I don't necessarily agree. Like, I'm with you. I think it's kind of crazy that from the beginning, an NBA player got sick and they were able to get tested and get their answer back right away. Here's what I'll say about the bubble. I love the idea. I think Disney is like a great idea because it's literally like the end of the world. You go there, it's a huge space. They've got enough space for everybody to be there. I know they've talked a lot about kind of the older assistant coaches and trainers, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with those guys because obviously they don't want them to be exposed. Because I assume a lot of these guys are going to be asymptomatic. I assume a lot of them aren't going to be showing any symptoms. But like you said, there's going to be tons of testing. One of the things I did read from an interview with Jared Dudley, who's like super involved with this whole thing, is that players are going to actually be able to leave the bubble. They're going to be able to go out. As he mentioned, every team has their Rodman, referring to The Last Dance. We were just talking about it. And so players are going to be able to leave. Now, if they come back and they test positive, they're out. They can't play. And so it's basically saying to the teams, keep your folks in order. And if one of your star players, or even one of your more important players comes down with COVID, you're done. You're out. It's over.
No, I think that's the best way to do it. Unfortunately, is the season's not going to end. Your player is just gone, and you don't get him back. So if Jason Tatum gets COVID, and then he's out, and the Celtics are kind of fucked.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Jason
I know I went
Tatum
off.
doesn't need to get COVID. Joel Embiid needs to get COVID. Gian, and I don't want them to get COVID, but those are the guys that I need to get sick, so they can't play, so the Celtics can get the championship. And then LeBron and Anthony Davis, they can get sick, and the Celtics can win the championship.
You're gonna take a cheap championship like that?
I will take a championship any way it's given to me.
That's fair enough. I mean, you are a Bills fan, right?
Now the other thing is, so two other things. One, they're talking about still having a second site. And I think the places I've seen mentioned there's like Chicago, Toronto, but the one that probably makes the most sense is Vegas. They've got the space. They host the Summer League. Obviously, it's a place that would get people excited. Again, I was about to say draw fans, but obviously fans aren't going to be there. But that's another place they could. Again, that's going to require travel to and from potentially.
My thought, though, is didn't the Las Vegas mayor open up Las Vegas? So you're
I mean but I assume nobody's going to be allowed into these games, right? Like people are going to flock.
I understand that, but if you're going to tell me a player is playing basketball in Las Vegas isn't going to go to the casino?
Oh, 100% they will. I mean, that's going to happen. I just think the reality is, if they need a second place, that's the place it should be.
Okay. Now, I don't know if I mean, I don't agree with that, because I think then you're asking for all those cases to show up and just flatten the NBA.
Well, I think any place other than Disney, the Disney bubble, doesn't make sense. If you have a second location, there's a chance with that travel, with the interaction in those spaces, that you're going to have a huge spike. And so again, if it's in Toronto, there could be a spike. It's a huge city. If it's in Chicago, good Lord, it could be a huge spike. Like the reality, wherever it is the second site, there's going to be that potential. I just think Vegas is the more attractive place because it's got multiple places to play basketball, and you're going to get an infusion of people and cash into the city, which economists and financial folks love. The reality is, and again, as you just said, the people with the money are the people that are making decisions. They're the ones getting these tests.
That's fair.
The other thing is that Adam Silver wants, when the playoffs come, to go full 7-game series throughout the entire playoffs. He wants the championship to be as legit as possible. And I think it's probably a way to kind of make up a couple of games here and there through a playoff series. Yep. Obviously sounds great because you get to watch more basketball. Is it going to be too much for these players, though? Are they going to get worn out? Is basketball going to look really rough come the Eastern and Western Conference championships?
So they've had 2 months off to rest their bodies? So no, I think they'll be perfectly fine. I mean,
you don't think you think they've been training just as hard as they would during the season?
No, I think they've been training like they were in the off season, and they're going to get a couple of weeks to get back into the right shape. And maybe I think you're going to see struggles at the beginning. And then once you get to the playoffs, I think they'll be back into the right shape to be able to play and do what they need to do.
I think the overall product is going to be a little bit off. And it'll be interesting to see if that has an impact on an early round playoff matchup. If some one or two seed just gets a little cold and can't get it together, or maybe they take an injury in that shortened regular season or whatever, it could be interesting to see what happens.
I mean, look, Giannis goes down. You're talking about a whole different Bucks team.
Right.
Even if LeBron goes down, you're talking about a different Lakers team, or Davis. I mean, we talked about it in an earlier episode where Davis is a legitimate MVP candidate, and you lose one of those two, that's not the same team.
Right.
So I mean, anything can happen, and I'd love that, and that's what makes it a little bit more fun. Just the top seeds going down, but then you kind of worry about it when you get to the team that's under 500 still in the playoffs come the Western or Eastern Conference Finals, because that's where it's going to happen.
Right. No, exactly. You know what? Either way, though, what we're talking about is basketball being back, and that's not bad.
It's definitely something that needs to happen. 6 to 8 weeks, man. I mean, I'll say it. These last 2 months have flown by for me personally. I don't feel like they're dragging, even though we haven't done much. So I think we can get through the next 2 months and once this, like we talked about last episode, they're all going to hit and probably come back at the same time. And you're just going to have a smorgasbord of sports, and it's going to be great.
It's going to be incredible. All right, on to the NFL. Proposed rule changes. Now, I will say, I rag on the NFL a lot. Their commissioner is a clown. I do want to interject before we get to the proposed rule changes. I kind of went off last episode about the compensatory draft pick situation for hiring minority coaches and general managers. It's been tabled. They've decided to not pursue that anymore. Strong move by the NFL to
Smart move.
Dunk that dumb idea that they had. My guess is they probably threw it out to test the feedback, got awful feedback, and we'll never see that again.
Right. No, I agree with you completely.
For all the reasons that I went off, but also it's just, it didn't seem like it garnered a lot of support from either the players or kind of the officials that were involved. So I'm glad that it's to the wayside. But Back to these rule changes. All right. So what I like about the NFL in this situation is that they allow teams to come to the table with possible rule changes. I think that's pretty cool. Now, other leagues could do it, but it's not exposed the way that this is. And so I'm gonna shoot them at you. You tell me whether you care or not. You tell me whether they're a good idea or not. We're gonna start with the big one. We're gonna start with the Eagles, who want to give teams the option to, instead of an onside kick, get a 4th and 15 from their own, I believe, 25. So 4th and 15 from their own 25 instead of an onside kick. It is very similar to the AAF and what they did. And bonus points if you know what the AAF stood for.
American Alliance of Football.
Boom! Bonus points. My man. All right. Tell me what you think.
Ever since they changed the rule of that the kickoff team has to stand at the line, they can't run up, it's failing. It went from what, 2007 to 2013, before the rule was put in place, it was succeeding at a 19% success rate, and now it's down to 10% because they can't run. I mean, my guess is they probably changed it when Brandon Bostich blew that onside kick where, a lot went wrong, but a lot of people blamed him for the Packers not making it to the Super Bowl that year. I don't personally blame him, but he's got to make that play. Anyway, I think it'll make it more interesting. I think that how often is a 4th and 15 play converted? So I don't think it's going to change the percentage that much as far as an onside kick. The other team's just going to get the ball in better position than on an onside kick, because at least if you're on the onside kick, you're talking about them getting it maybe at the 45. You don't get those, you don't get 15 yards. You're getting it at the 30. So it's almost, you're already in field goal range. So even if you're only down by 3, they kick a field goal, now you have to score a touchdown.
I can't disagree with you, but I love this idea. And anything to get dumb things like the onside kick out of the way, I'm all for. And this isn't a rule that's being thrown out there this year. I would love it if they just got rid of kickoffs, because very few of them are even being returned anymore. And I know there are teams out there that are kicking it short on purpose and blah, blah, blah. But give me a 4th and 15 instead of an onside kick that needs 18 million things to go right. And most of the time they just either kick it right to the first player standing there, or they just kick it out of bounds like idiots. Give me a 4th and 15 where I can put my best players on the field and have the game determined by those best players rather than the guys that never get to play because they're on special teams.
Well, you say kick it out of bounds like idiots, but it's not like they're trying to get the ball to bounce up. It's a complete luck play.
Listen, do you want the game in the hands of your kicker and a bunch of guys that can't crack the starting lineup, or Aaron Rodgers and the offense? Let me ask you that question straight up.
That's fair.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers, 4th and 15, game in his hands. He gets to make that decision, or do you let your kicker bounce one over everyone's head out of bounds, or kick it 5 yards and fall on it and lose the possession anyway?
Yeah. It's obviously, even if the rates change a little bit, it's not going to change that much. But I think at least it will add a little bit more excitement. I think more people now expect the onside kick to get recovered than they ever did in the past.
Well, and so here's the thing that I thought about when I first read this, and I said, okay, I think it's awesome because you get your best players back on the field. Great. If you fail, You throw a pass, it's incomplete. The other team gets the ball, right? Now
Yep.
they're at the 25. And you mentioned this, like they're going to have better field position. But if it's a late in the game, if there's the way I look at it as you might see more teams doing this earlier in the game, earlier in the fourth quarter, earlier in the third quarter, because okay, you give the ball to them at the 25, but if you stop them in 3 plays, they can kick a field goal, right? Whereas, you know, you do an onside kick and they get the ball at the 45, 50-yard line, they can drive and take up all this time. You can't take up a lot of time from the 25-yard line. There's only a couple of first downs you can get. And so I think what you might see teams do is all of a sudden, 6 minutes left in the game, you're down 20 points, you score a touchdown, go for the 4th and 15. And yeah, if they score a touchdown on the next play or you hold them to 3 and they kick a field goal, you're getting that ball back regardless. Like, I just think it might speed up the game a little bit and give teams an opportunity to try their luck at getting back into the game a little bit earlier. Because the reality is with onside kicks is most teams wait until the end of the game. Right. And by the time, you know, and that's kind of what also sucks about it is that the success rate is so low and it happens so late in the game that when it doesn't happen, you're like, well, you know, now I can turn off the TV because it's over. This happens, you're going to get excited. You're going to be like, oh, why are they going for 4th and 50? Why are they doing the onside kick thing in the second quarter? Well, you know what? They might just say, like, we trust our defense to hold this team to a field goal, and we like our chances of scoring touchdowns.
That would be interesting. A team
I just dig it because I think, again, kudos to special teamers. You're NFL players, but, like, you're also not really ever getting any play time. And I just don't want the ball in your hands, you know?
Fair enough.
All right. Rule number 2, also from the Eagles. This is an easy one. They want to do permanent expansion of the replay, the auto replays on the touchdowns, the turnovers, the tries, all of that stuff. I don't know why this wouldn't happen automatically, but I don't know.
I mean, yes, I 100% agree with you. My concern, as I think a lot of people's concern is, there is let's just call it a turnover, even though it's not, just because we get to replay it. But then there's not enough evidence to turn it over, and sometimes that happens, and it's kind of disappointing. Because I mean, it's happened to me, it's happened or to the Packers, it's happened for the Packers. So, like, it probably evens out at the end of the season, but sometimes that can really affect a game. So, while I think they should absolutely replay every touchdown, I think they just need to keep in mind that maybe they should try to make a little bit better judgment if they can. I mean, like, I honestly feel like they've been told in the past that if it looks like it could be a touchdown, just call it a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, I think the tough thing with the refs, and I mean, I probably yell at them every Sunday, right? But, like, the reality is the game is so fast nowadays. It's not just handing the ball off and running between the tackles. There's so much more passing involved in the NFL. And you're right. I think a lot of times they tend to err on the side of, like, well, I know this can be replayed. And again, these are interesting decisions to be made because, you know, last year they went with the reviewable pass interference, and it failed spectacularly because it never got turned over, and they just went ahead and got rid of it this year. Yep. And so, like, the idea is, I think this is something that makes sense in that you do review scoring plays, you do review turnovers, just so you can make sure you get those big plays right. But again, I think I agree with you. Like, at what point do you say, like, enough is enough with the replay? I love replay. I think it makes a lot of sense to get the play right, but it does slow the game down. It does a lot of times, and I'm just going to equate it to soccer. There's a lot of times where, like, if you follow the letter of the law, you're like, well, that's a foul. I got to give these guys a penalty kick, even though 9 times out of 10 I wouldn't call it because in the play of game I wouldn't have seen it. And so replay is good. It just is always going to be that situation where you're like, maybe that wasn't the best situation.
Yeah, I mean, then you get into the thought of, can you review something like the unnecessary roughness to a quarterback or then the defenseless receiver? Because there's times where a couple of years ago, Clay Matthews, like, he had 2 clean sacks and got 15-yard penalties, and then another time, another quarterback got crushed and nothing got called. Then someone goes up and it looks like they hit him with their helmet. Then you look at the replay and they're hitting him perfectly with the shoulder, and they're like, oh, he hit him helmet to helmet. Well, he didn't. So
I don't want to be salty, but it could also, maybe come into play on when they call a block in the back in a playoff game against the Texans this year, when it's clearly not a block in the back and he squared him up and he was looking right at him, but that's neither here nor there.
Oh, I didn't know if I didn't know where you were going with that.
Now, in the same vein, the Ravens and Chargers have put forth a rule that they're, or not a rule, but a request that they put a booth umpire into the game, and then also they want to add a senior technology advisor, whatever the hell that is. Let's be honest. What they want is they want more eyes on the field. They want more people looking at these screens when they do replays. They want more people having a say in the outcome of these very important moments that are going to be a big part of NFL, right? Like, and I get that to some extent. Like, if you're going to do replay and do replay big, you got to make sure you get it right.
I mean, I think that makes sense. So, I mean, you can have someone already looking at the last play before someone challenges it. Like, if it's close to something, you're going to be like, okay, this head technology guy or the booth umpire can start looking and say, all right, so this is where I want you to see when the guy puts the headset on. But why wasn't that already happening? Isn't that how so I'm confused. Like,
it makes sense. It sounds good. I think, again, it just comes down to them wanting more people with eyes on the field, with eyes on the TV screens, with eyes, so that these referees who are clearly not able to keep up with the game nowadays. I mean, and it's not no disrespect to them. I think it's just the reality of today's NFL, that even with all those people out on the field, like, there's just no way that they can keep up with the pace, that there are more people in places that are going to be making these decisions on instant replay.
Yeah, you can't add any more on-field refs. So I think it makes sense to have some extra eyes on the field.
Right. And at some point you're going to have to get rid of some of those on-field refs. Like, I still can't believe that they have that ref, like, right in the middle behind the quarterback and, like, right there in the like, they're like, it's just terrifying.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrifying.
Couldn't pay me enough to do that.
All right, the next rule is something that I think it'll happen because it's coming from both the Dolphins and the competition committee. So this is a thing that came up a lot toward the end of this season, but throughout this season, it's been happening for years, is that the defense gets the opportunity to have the clock run on the referee's whistle when an offensive team commits a penalty. And so this was the Patriots were doing it. I even think that the Texans might have done it. Maybe the Saints did it.
The Titans did it to the Patriots like a week after the Patriots did it.
Right. So you've got all these teams that are taking false start or delay of games, so that the clock can continue to run. Now
they killed like 90 seconds off the clock without for no reason. It was terrible.
And so it sounds like they want to kind of cut back on that. They want to cut down on the clock manipulation. It sounds good. I assume this will happen because it's an easy fix.
Well, I mean, it makes sense, right? Because you're at the end of the game, a offensive lineman jumps, even if you're down or up. The clock doesn't stop. They run automatic 10-second runoff. I think it was. Right,
but it is an automatic 10-second runoff, but the clock stops. Right, and so that's one of the things that I think they're trying to do is that
seconds off, and if there's 9 seconds left in the game's over if you false start.
Correct, but if there's a minute 20 left. And they do the 10-second runoff. Now it's a minute 10, but they can huddle, they can get the right play. Whereas if they commit that penalty and the referee lets go, now all of a sudden, do you have time to huddle? Now you've got to play probably out of the no huddle. You've got to hustle up, and you're probably burning more than 10 seconds in that situation. So I like that idea.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is, I think with that happening, I think it makes sense that should happen. There's no reason why a team that commits 2 fouls should get 90 seconds.
Right.
Because especially if you're only up 2 and it's 4th down and you're trying to milk the clock, and now all of a sudden the other team only has 30 seconds because they don't have any timeouts. Like, you committed a penalty that should be up to the defense to let that clock stop. So
no, I'm with you. I'm with you. All right, last one, and this is one that I'm just going to preface by saying, I am typically against protecting players as much as possible. This is kind of a clown show rule. So the competition committee is looking to have increased protection for kick and punt returners who don't call for a fair catch, but don't have time to protect themselves. Now, they can call a fair catch.
Yep.
And then there's also the space rule, right? Like, a player can't be in their business when they're catching the ball, right?
Yeah.
So if those two things aren't in place, why do they need more protection? What are we talking about?
Yeah, no, that seems pretty stupid. Like, if you don't call fair catch, you're fair game. Like, be smart. Like, you're looking at them. Oh, they're within 12 yards.
Yeah.
Fair catch.
Yeah.
Like, there is no reason why this rule should pass. If you're stupid enough to wait till the last second and not call it, you deserve to get smacked.
And I get it. Like, I get that they're trying to avoid somebody getting a concussion because they made a bad decision by not calling a fair catch. But at the end of the day, it just seems like a weird rule because there's already a couple of rules that are already in place. And again, just call it fair catch. Like, just call it. Don't worry about it.
No, not in disagreement with you there.
All right, so we
err on the side of caution.
Right, and it sounds like we've solved all the NFL problems.
I think so.
You and I have fixed it. We're good to go. We will have to go back in time and change a few rules and change a few calls, but I think we figured it out. That's it for this week. What else you got? You got anything left for me before we go?
You know, I know this is old news, but it just popped up on here, and I know it's a topic of conversation because Glavin spoke out on it recently. What do you think of the money conversation that's happening in the major leagues with players not wanting to take a pay cut and the owners wanting to do that so they can save some money? What's your thoughts?
I mean, on one hand, it's not a hill you want to die on. I want all 30 million of my dollars, right?
Right.
That being said, I'm with the players on this, right? I think we talked a little bit about it last week, how they're already going to take a reduced pay because of the number of games that they're going to play. And owners are now pushing for them to take more of a pay cut because they fear that they're going to lose money. Yep. I get it. But again, these salaries are guaranteed in Major League Baseball. If this was the NFL, then it wouldn't be a conversation, right? They could just say, listen, we're going to cut you. We're not going to deal with you. Yep. I just worry that this constant challenge between the players and the owners in every sports league, the percentage of money that players get, the salaries being guaranteed, there's so much that goes into these contracts that they sign and the labor relations that are involved that I just worry that if they're able to get the players to take less money, that it could be problematic for them down the line. Now, I get that there are a lot of people coming out and saying the players are going to look like the bad guys in this situation. Let me be clear. The owners are billionaires. They're all billionaires. They pretty much all make the towns and cities where their stadiums are pay for those stadiums.
Which is crazy.
They don't have to come out of pocket for that.
Right.
Right? They make billions of dollars every year. They own stadiums that other people are paying taxes for. And now they're fussing that they're going to lose some money. And again, $4 billion, as we mentioned last week, is a lot of money for the MLB to lose. Spread that out over 30-plus teams. It's not a huge number in the grand scheme of things. It is a big number. But again, you've gone into you sign these players to a contract. These players can't make money really until their fifth or sixth year of playing professional baseball because of the way it's set up as of right now. And now all of a sudden you're saying, no, we need to take more money from you. So I am with the players on this because I think it sets a bad precedence if they kind of fold in this situation. I get that it looks bad that they're fussing about their money, but they've earned that contract. They've earned that money. And again, I think if somebody said to you right now, like, we're gonna furlough you for a couple of weeks this summer. Okay, we can do that. We're gonna furlough you, and we're gonna make you take a pay cut.
Right.
But we're not gonna take a pay cut. We're not gonna scale back the money that we're spending. I worry that it sets a bad precedent.
Fair enough. I like it.
Rant over. All right, that's it. Episode 14. Any parting words for these folks out there?
I got nothing this week.
All right. Find us on YouTube. Find us on iTunes, IG, Facebook. Stop messing around. Let me see some ratings. I want some 5 stars. This is shit. We need some help out here. Let's go.
Let's go.
We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Later.